Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about some of these media interviews with Zoran Mamdani, who's the Democrat candidate for mayor of New York City. He has decided to um, put out things saying that he wanted to tax higher, richer, whiter neighborhoods at a higher rate, and the media is like, "Oh no, it's not because they're white." And Politico and other folks are saying, "Oh, he's not a communist." And there's videos of him talking about wanting to seize the means of production and all kinds of different nonsense. So, what's amazing to me is I'm like, Democrats, you don't have to pick the worst guy just because he's a Democrat and he's a democratic socialist, right? You don't have to even if he's your candidate that they picked in the primary, you don't have to do that, right? You could just go to Mayor Adams. You don't have to go that route. But that's the route that they seem to want to go, and the media is I don't know, trying to help him along. It seems at this point. Uh and I'm just I don't know, concerned about quite a few things. Uh which we will get into. Also, there were some Supreme Court rulings that had just come out, I think on Friday, but I didn't do a show on Friday. And with some good results, media's pulling their hair out about at least one of them. So we'll touch on that a little bit, and some other things as well, some sad news as well. Um, you guys remember that story from Boulder, Colorado, where there was a man who threw Molotov cocktails at people. There was one woman who was 82 years old who was attacked, and she did not survive. So they've upgraded his charges. Just really sick, sad world today. But anyway, um, we'll be touching all those things. But before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com to get different content on website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the site because it does cost a stream. Run the site, all that good stuff you guys can support. I appreciate it very, very much. You guys can also check out different merch that's available at blacktnews.com. We got the goat hoodie and the goat t-shirt. We got I'm not the victim you're looking for. We got mugs and so on. Let's go ahead and check out the different merch. Also, if you go on the website, there's a link that'll take you to my book website where you guys can see some of my books that I've written. I have children's chapter books and books for older readers and so on. So you guys can check that out. I also have nonfiction books, like of course Guys Blatantly Against Abortion. There's also a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube that'll take you right to an Amazon page where you can see my stuff. So I encourage you guys again to look at it and pick up a book if you would like to read any of my stuff. I love to write. Look forward to new things coming out this year, and I'll keep you guys updated on all that stuff. Before I get to the news, though, I would like to tell you guys a bit about my weekend, if you don't mind. I hope you guys had a good weekend as well. But I've been keeping this in like forever. So my sister Tina, her birthday is 2 weeks after mine. So hers was this past Tuesday. But on Saturday, she had a birthday party and she's been wanting to have it for a while. She loves the film Pride and Prejudice. And it's one of her top like 5 favorite movies. And so she wanted to have a Pride and Prejudice theme like birthday party. And so she told me a, a while ago. I don't know if it's been an entire year, maybe not, but it's been some months, a long time, that she told me about this party that she wanted to have. And so she said that she wanted to play a murder mystery game. For those of you who don't know, I write murder mystery parties. We've had several, and I'm always the one who makes the game. And the game is really, really fun, and I'll explain it in a second. Well, I'll explain it now. So they're really, really fun. There's 3 rounds. There's someone that we always kill. We always kill Tom Welling. We started playing it. We were still watching, I guess, Smallville at the time. And I have no ill will toward Tom Welling. I don't know. It's just I think because he's going to be someone's husband, and it's like, why wouldn't you want your husband Tom Welling? And it just became a tradition. And so this time, it's been a while since I made a game, and I was contemplating it, and I'm like, oh, but his name kind of sounds like, I don't know, from that era or something. So, but it was Tom. What was just Master Wellington? Okay, was his name that we went with, and so someone has been killed, and you have to find out who did it, and if more than one people guess who did it, they have to name the proper motivation as to why they did it, and if no one guesses who the killer was, the killer actually wins the game. So everyone, there's 3 rounds, and everyone each round gets a public clue that they read aloud, and then everyone has a private clue, and then they have to tell each other's you can tell 2 people your private clue, up to 3 people, but you have to at least tell 2 people your private clue. So it's a great mingling game because you have to interact with the room to find out what they know, because someone is going to have information about you that you don't know, and if you want to find out if someone has an alibi, you're going to have to find that out, through somebody else. So it's a fun game. We haven't had a party where I've had to write a script like that for a while. It gets really, I think the most, I don't know if we've ever gotten up to like 30 people playing the game, but it gets really complicated the more people there are. So we had like, I think 14 people play the game this time around. But the thing that everyone didn't know, that I've known and have held in for a long time, is that the theme wasn't just Pride and Prejudice. It was Pride and Prejudice and zombies. And if you're like, zombies, there was a book, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, and it was made into a film. And she wanted to be Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. So I got my nephew in on it a couple weeks ago, and I said, Daniel, we're gonna actually be, I need you to be a zombie for the game, but you can't tell anyone. And so he, like a champ, he held it in. He didn't tell anybody about it. So um it was really fun. So when the second round started, I told him to like just start coughing and stuff. I'm like, Daniel, are you okay? Are you okay? And everyone's like, he's fine. Like, I'm like, no, are you okay? And he kind of starts growling, and people are just kind of ignoring him a little bit. And I'm like, no, he's not okay. Like, I'm like, he's not okay. I'm like, he's not okay because he's the undead. And this is actually Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. And they just went wild in the room. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I should have known. And so anyway, it was a great game. Nobody guessed that it was zombies, and no one ended up finding out who the killer was. And probably because people were getting infected throughout the game, and if you were infected and you told someone your clues, you risked getting infected by that person. So a lot of people who were infected already just spread clues to people who were already infected or maybe infected. And so a lot of people just kind of stuck to themselves or their little clique as opposed to talking to everyone. So a lot of people guessed someone who had an alibi, like clearly had an alibi. And my uncle, my aunt and uncle came, and they weren't and they were invited, but we didn't know for sure. Oh gosh, it got really loud, the rain. I didn't know what that was. I just heard a loud something next to me. I'm like, what's going on? It's just really, really loud. The rain is my window. So anyway, my aunt and my uncle, they came, and 2 other people, couple couldn't come. So we asked if they would play. And so at first they were really hesitant, but they got into it. They were, doing accents and stuff. And my uncle Kenny, he almost, a lot of people thought he was the killer. And so he had himself in mind, and he had someone else who was the killer. But he got like kind of pressured. Everybody was saying it was him, so he just jumped on the train and said it was him, and that wasn't the other guy. So the killer won again. So it was a fun weekend. It was a lot of work, like putting the game together, especially because last minute my niece, I didn't she can read, but she, is still learning. And then, like, there's some scandalous things that happen in the game, like this person is having an affair and all this other stuff. So I just didn't want her to be involved in stuff. Like, my nephew, he can read, is fine, he's a little more mature, I guess. So it's fine for him, but I didn't really plan for them to be in it. So on Friday night after church, I said, "You're okay with not playing the game, right?" And so she said, "I am playing the game. I just need someone to help me." And I'm like, how did she get that impression? And she was just so assertive that she was going to play it. So I'm like, I'm not rewriting a whole new character to shoehorn into the story for her. So what I ended up doing is I had extra clues, and I just said that they were zombies. And if you wanted to get an extra clue from them, you had to like roll, which Tina is really into Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. So we incorporated like the dice and rolling and stuff into the game. And so if you could get a clue from her, and you had to beat her in a roll, and if you beat her in a roll, you weren't turned into a zombie. And if she beat you, then you were infected. So that worked out, except like when she came to the party, she was like, "I don't want to play the game." I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because I'm gonna have to talk to grown-ups." And I'm like, everybody in the room except for one person, because my sister had a friend who came out of town to see her. I'm like, literally everyone in the room. And I talked her, to her, and kind of talked her into it. But then I'm like, you don't actually have to talk to grown-ups anyway. So anyway, it was a great party. Um, yeah, Abel said it's mega raining. Yeah, it is mega raining. I don't know where everybody's at. I know we're like same city. So it is crazy rain. I didn't even know if it was gonna rain today. If I disappear from you guys, it could be the weather. It could be the weather. So anyway, that was my weekend. It was a lot of fun. With the party, and then we had church and stuff yesterday. So I hope you guys had a good weekend. Thank you for listening to my story. I was just so excited about it that I was just driving home with my sister Katrina, who knew nothing about the true nature of the party, and I would just start hysterically laughing to myself, and she would look at me like I was insane. So I'm like, I'm just laughing about the party, but they knew I was making the game, so they just thought I was excited about the details of the game. They didn't know how deep it went. So so anyway, it was fun. It was fun. Um so I want to start off this report from the Daily Mail. Woman 82 attacked with flamethrower at Israel protest dies as cops upgrade charges against the suspect. So we covered this story at the time when it happened, but in Colorado a couple weeks ago, there was a man who came to this rally. It was like just a march with a couple people who march in solidarity for the hostages that are still in Israel. And so he found out about it online, came there, and decided to throw Molotov cocktails at people. And and a 82-year-old woman injured in the June 1st attack on Boulder. Protesters supporting the release of Hamas hostages died, officials said Monday, as they upgraded the charges against the suspect, Mohammed Solomon, to murder. He will now face 2 murder charges in connection with the death of Karen Diamond, who died tragically as a result of the severe injuries that she suffered in an attack, the office Boulder District Attorney Michael Doherty said in a release. This horrific attack now has claimed the life of an innocent person who was beloved by her family and friends, Doherty said. Our hearts are with the Diamond family during this incredibly difficult time. What a terrible thing to do to people. I just being like burned like that, and the attack happened a minute ago, so to just be suffering like that, and elderly, it's just horrific. that this man would do that. Solomon, an Egyptian national who'd been living in Colorado Springs with his wife and 5 children, has also been charged with an additional 66 counts in relation to 14 new victims identified through the ongoing investigation. Solomon has also been charged with a federal hate crime. According to his arrest affidavit, Solomon has been planning the attack for a year, waiting for his teenage daughter to graduate from high school before executing it. She graduated just days before he launched the attack with homemade flamethrowers on a Run for Their Lives event on Boulder Pearl Street pedestrian mall. Karen Diamond died June 25th, and there was a private burial with the family before Shabbat. Boulder Rabbi Mark Soloway wrote in Boulder Jewish News. This event and the tragic loss of someone who has given so much of herself over the years to the Bunai community and beyond has impacted us all, and we are sad and horrified, he wrote. We will need to support each other as we process this loss. She is survived by her husband, 2 sons and daughters in law, and 5 grandsons. The family has appealed for privacy. In addition to the murder charges filed in connection with her death, the amended complaint names a total 29 victims in the attack, according to the release from the DA's office. Of the 29 victims, 13 suffered physical injury during the attack. Ugh. Ugh. Gosh. The complaint now contains 2 counts of first-degree murder, 52 counts of attempted first-degree murder, 8 counts of first-degree assault, 18 counts of attempted first-degree assault, 2 counts of using incendiary device, 16 counts of attempted use of incendiary device, and 1 count of animal cruelty. Yeah, this was a insane story. And this happened like right before like my sisters went to go visit Colorado. I was just like, y'all be careful out there. I mean, just like right before they left. So that was a horrific story. And just praying for her family. It the thought of people being so cruel and evil to do something, you know, like there's stories with the guy who mauled people down with a car in the, what was that, in I think it was Wisconsin some years back, and people who mow down people with firearms, and it's just sick, the sort of things that people can do and they plan in these attacks. And but these just motivated based off of hate, been planning it for a year, I guess, to have enough courtesy for his daughter. But at the end of the day, like, what, you going to jail for murder, are you thinking about your daughter then? And you're just attacking people who are just marching just for recognition for people who are still held hostage. Like, what kind of crime did they commit in a moral sense to deserve something like that? These I don't know, these ideologies are so disturbing. Like, people with such hatred, like seething out, Zionism, you're a Zionist. And I don't know what everybody thinks the definition of Zionism is. If you're Zionist, if you believe like Israel has the right to exist, essentially. That's basically it in their ancestral like homeland. You don't have to believe that taxpayer dollars have to fund Israel, that they have to be our ally. We could be ambivalent to them. We could send them no tax dollars. You could be against the war and or wanted to end and be a Zionist or whatever. But I mean, realistically, they need to stop existential threats. But like, but if you say you're a Zionist, it's like these people, I don't know, they think that it means supremacist. And that's not what that means. That's not what that means. And this attack happened closely with the other, unrelated, but that, remember there was the couple who was killed in DC. And do you guys recall how Democratic Socialists of America were, you know, failing to uh, condemn that? And a faction of them actually praised the murder of the Israeli diplomats. So I don't, maybe I didn't even cover the story at the time. Maybe I just kind of mentioned it passing. But back in May, this story is from the New York Post. And I'm mentioning Democrat Socialists of America because that Zoran guy in New York, he is a proud Democratic Socialist. By the way, a fringe fraction, yeah, right, of the Democratic Socialists of America is praising the murder of two Israeli diplomats outside of a Washington, D.C. Jewish museum and lionizing suspect killer Elias Rodriguez, according to posts on social media. The DSA Liberation Caucus, a self identified Marxist Leninist Maoist caucus within the DSA, glorified Rodriguez in a social media post that appeared to be a direct call for more domestic terrorism. It is right to rebel against the enemy. This is Maoist law, the post from the DSA Liberation Caucus read, featuring a black and white sketch of Rodriguez set in relief against a Palestinian flag stamped with a hammer and a sickle. The DSA, whose members include Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani, disavowed the fringe group's statement on Wednesday. Democratic Socialists of America seek to democratically transform our society and reject vigilante violence, the post from Bernie Sanders' aligned group. We condemn the murder of Israeli embassy workers. Any statement otherwise is not a stance of the DSA. The short post concluded Rodriguez, 31, allegedly shot and killed Yaron Lejinsky, 28, and Sarah Milgram, 26, near the Capitol Jewish Museum on May 21st. The alleged violent extremist shouted, "Free, free Palestine," as he was led away in cuffs. DSA boasts several current and former high-profile members of the House of Representatives as members in his ranks, including the squad members, Rep. Rashida Tlaib, unfortunately for my state, former Rep. Jamal Bowman. Oh my gosh, if you guys haven't seen a video with Jamal Bowman, I gotta show you guys a video that popped over the weekend. Oh my gosh. And ex-rep Cori Bush. Jamal Bowman, didn't he get voted out? I can't remember. As well as current rep Greg Caesar. The group also counts hundreds of state senators and city council members across the country as members of the left-wing group. The DSA is organizationally composed of district chapters and are formed across the country. It's this is so strange how many people within Congress are associated with Democratic Socialists of America. And I know Bernie's been talking about that for a minute. And, AOC is like right in that vein. So back in 2016, if you guys remember this, Bernie Sanders being associated with that sort of thinking was alarming to some people, many people. And I remember Chris Matthews talking about Bernie Sanders being a socialist and be like, "I'm not a socialist, I'm a Democratic socialist." Okay, sure. Whatever. And he was trying to show a difference between Democrats and socialism. And there were people trying to play footsie with, I don't know, this young, energetic base that was, relating to Bernie. So they didn't want to say anything that was too harsh about it, I guess. And so Chris Matthews would have like Democrats on a show. And they're like, "Well, what's the difference between a Democrat and a socialist?" And it wasn't supposed to be a gotcha question. I'm talking about Chris Matthews. I'm not talking about Sean Hannity. I'm not talking about Tucker Carlson back when he was on Fox. I'm not talking about Megyn Kelly. I'm talking about Chris Matthews. He would ask people, "What's the difference between Democrat and socialist?" And folks didn't really have a good answer. And he asked Hillary Clinton that question, and she was kind of like shoulder shrugs a bit, like, like she didn't really have a good answer either. And he's like, I think there's a difference between a Democrat and a socialist. He said, I think there is. So Chris Matthews, as wacky as he was to a lot of people, he still like wanted to distinguish, Democrats from these folks who apparently want to seize the means of production. These these people who say openly that they hate capitalism, you know? But now because they wanted, I don't know, to placate instead of educate in debate, you have a lot of these people, these young folks who would throw fits on college campuses and when Ben or other folks on the right would go to these campuses and they'd act a fool and they didn't want to hear anything, and they've gone through the lectures of their professors. Now they're adults. They are adults and they have careers and they're voting, and they're voting in the worst kind of people. And you see like them becoming the mainstream. I don't think it's necessarily they are the mainstream, but they're becoming the mainstream just because they're so loud and people are afraid to push up against them. I hope that Mayor Eric Adams, can win the day. I hope there's still that much sanity. You guys remember COVID? Of course you remember COVID, but one of the things that was so insane to me was how quick people were ready to roll over when the government said, jump this high, and people jumped. And I understand that people were scared because of the pandemic and other stuff going on. So they were definitely using fear tactics, and and they knew like psychologically they had to make it not just about you are in danger, but you have to you're a danger to everyone else as well, and you're going to kill your neighbor if you don't do right. Like they could make you comply more if you knew that you were going to allegedly end someone else's life. So they did all these psychological tactics, and so I understand it to some degree, but the way that some people were willing to just lay down their freedoms and their liberties and to attack other Americans for it was really insane to me. And I just didn't think we were that weak-willed, I guess, that ready to just lay down and surrender our freedoms. Like I remember so many people just arguing with folks online about whether or not people should be able to go to church. Now, I never stopped going to church. Not one day. We added a church day throughout the week. But people were just pushing and arguing about how you just need to obey the laws of the land and so on. And I'm like, okay, well, our First Amendment is the law of the land. What are you talking about? That is the law of our land, that we should be able to practice our religions and stuff. So there was that people having to close down their businesses and arguing that that's what just has to happen. Even people arguing that after politicians got busted for like getting their hair cut, like Lori Lightfoot or Nancy Pelosi getting her hair done, or Gavin Newsom at the French Laundry, Gretchen Whitmer flying down to Florida, like all these people doing all kinds of different stuff. People were still licking the government boot and all this. And I just kind of thought more of the American spirit. I didn't think we were that docile and weak, I guess. So it just kind of surprised me where we were at. It surprised me. I think if New York was taken over by someone who says openly that he doesn't like capitalism and is writing on his website that he wants to tax richer, whiter neighborhoods, and he has an excuse for that. He's like, oh, I'm just describing the neighborhoods. Okay. I think if there was a rich black neighborhood, you wouldn't say we're gonna tax the rich black neighborhoods. I don't think you would put it that way. I think there's a reason. I obviously think there's a racial element to it, and that's why you wrote it. If that's where we're at, that is so concerning. That is so concerning. And they're doing the same playbook with Zoran that they did with Kamala Harris. Like, people keep pulling up videos of him saying crazy stuff. And you see people say, well, he was young. He's 33 years old. He's still young. Okay. He still has 3 years ago, him saying all this crazy stuff. That's not that long ago. You have to show evidence that those are not his thoughts. But you can see from his website and saying stuff like, I don't like capitalism, whatever. He's still the same guy. He's still the same guy. And people are like, well, he doesn't want to get rid of the police or defund it or totally dismantle it. Now he wants reform. Okay, but the defund movement, when they said defund, they also at the time they got basically caught red-handed when folks were pointing out we don't want to demolish or dismantle, which some people like flat out like kept doubling down on it. But they switched up their language. Like, okay, well, we just need reform. Well, what's the reform? You get rid of them and replace them with social workers? What's the reform? But the media is covering for this guy. So, like Politico was saying like, oh, these people are saying he's a communist. That's not true. It's like, okay, you don't think that's true? It's very interesting. Okay, well, there's some videos about him talking about seizing the means of production. So let's look at some of this stuff. And they're just gonna try to really make him the star, kind of like how AOC was a star, was everywhere. I mean, we're gonna be talking about this guy for a long time, but everybody should be coming together to try to destroy him. To destroy his policies and all that kind of different stuff. And you see folks covering for him.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists, and we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production.
Wait a minute. I'm not gonna let y'all just speed past right there. He said the end goal is to seize the means of production, yo. Okay, okie dokie. Okie dokie. Someone said, Star said, it's so crazy how he's a Muslim and supports Islam and Hamas, yet wants to have taxpayers fund gender transferring surgeries in marches and gay pride parades. So, well, I don't know how well devout he is. I'm assuming not super devout. Um, I think it's obvious that his progressivism is what's most important to him. And a lot of these causes get together and they decide that as long as they can oppose capitalism or the white people, the West, then they can all get together and be on the same side. I mean, it's weird in general when you see Queers for Palestine or whatever. It's about fighting the certain power dynamics That's what's most important to these people. It kind of reminds me of how communists would use the plights of black people in very legitimate concerns back in the day to recruit them to fight for civil rights and other things like that. But at the end of the day, advancing the cause of black people could not supersede actually supporting communism. So that was the end goal, and they recruit people, and it's like it's not about your blackness, it's not about advancing the black cause. The most important thing is rooting the world in communism. So the most important thing to him, as being someone who his dad is like a college professor, Columbia, I believe, his mom Hollywood, like writer, I believe, um maybe director, but I think writer, but he's a privileged guy, and he's just deep in this ideology, saying they need to blatantly, openly support socialism. And this was an interview he had with the Democratic Socialist America. So AJ said, "My hometown better wake up, bro. I hope they do, sir. I hope they do, because um this will be a very bad catalyst. I mean, New York isn't a small city. Obviously, it's one of the biggest cities in the world. Um, a financial powerhouse. That's what's really insane. That's what's really insane. That this epicenter of so much innovation in financial power, and the people are willing to just give it all over to someone who says, "I don't like capitalism. I want to seize the end goal is to seize the means I think I'm on the screen. Hey guys, if you're still watching, um, so I told you the weather was bad, and I thought it had kind of cleared up or whatever, but my power went out for a second, and I think it blew out my internet box. So, I'm trying to get that fixed. But I'm really sorry to cut the day short. That was unexpected. Everything else seems to be working okay except for the internet box, and so I'm not up with my computer, so I can't show you guys like the clips and everything like that. So we'll have to resume this conversation tomorrow. Thank you to people who stayed on to see where I was. But yeah, the it had just started raining really crazy and the power just flicked. I don't know if you guys saw the lights cut out before the internet went out, but yeah, it's still out. I can't get my box to turn on. I'm gonna have to go maybe get that replaced. So I think it short circuited. I hope nothing else short circuited. So anyway, thank you guys for watching today. I'm so sorry it was cut short, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.